All right, welcome back to the live exchange. I'm Dr. Pamela, and today we are talking about politics. We're talking with women who are either in politics or who are involved with politics, who are analyzing politics. It's going to be a great conversation. We're having what was supposed to be a post-election dialogue, and for some of these races, it is post-election, but for the presidential race, it is still going, and we still have yet to see what those results are. So let me introduce our two guests. First, we have Dr. Norma Mendoza Denton. She is a professor of anthropology at the University of California, Los Angeles. In her work at the intersection of language, youth subculture, ethnicity, and politics, she focuses on topics ranging from gang members in California to Republican town hall meetings in Arizona. She has authored over 50 book chapters and journal articles in the fields of linguistics, anthropology, communication, and education. She received a Rockefeller Foundation Bellagio Fellowship for the completion of her book, Homegirls, Language and Cultural Practice in Latina Youth Gangs. She has served on executive boards of the American Anthropology Association, the Society for Visual Anthropology, and currently the Linguistic Society of America. Her other manuscript is in process, which is called Citizen Rage, and it addresses the linguistic dynamics of town hall meetings and other public events in American politics. I cannot wait to talk to Dr. Mendoza Denton about this. And we also have our second guest. I'm going to go ahead and introduce her now. She is newly reelected Park Cannon. She is a millennial, and she was elected yesterday to her fourth term as the youngest member of the Georgia House of Representatives. She is excited to represent Midtown, Downtown, and Southwest Atlanta. At the 2016 Democratic National Convention in Philadelphia, Representative Cannon said, "We need to trust Black women," and has relentlessly continued to stand up for LGBTQ and minority visibility in the South. Park is openly queer and a founding member of the Equality Caucus. Additionally, she serves as secretary for the Women's Caucus and serves on the executive committee of the Georgia Legislative Black Caucus, the nation's largest state Black caucus. So I'm going to just go ahead and bring these two amazing women on. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hello. Oh, you both look even better than your pictures. How are you all doing this morning?
We're good.
Yeah. Well, it's so good to have you. I'm just going to start off with how are you doing? Congratulations, by the way. I was going to call you Reverend. Representative.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great to be here. And I'll just start off and say we're hopeful. We are absolutely trying to watch, paint dry on a wall right now. And many of us know when you paint your nails, you can find a million things to do. But all you need to do is just wait and let it dry. So we're kind of in the waiting stance here in Georgia. We've got at least 70,000 ballots that have not yet been counted as of 11:19 a.m. So that's how we're feeling. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dr. Mendoza Denton, how are you? How's it going? How are you handling the wait?
Well, I'm pins and needles a little bit, doing a lot of talking to media and trying to sort out what's going to happen and which way this might go, as well as what will happen once it does go one way or another.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I really admire the work that both of you have done. I know that I was looking at in 2016, Cannon, you were looking at a religious freedom bill. And where is that? Where do we stand on that now, 4 years later?
4 years later, the same conversations are taking place. However, we have seen some members of the majority party start to say to their other members, are there other issues we can work on? So the marginal successes that the LGBTQ community feels in Georgia are largely because we have had major Supreme Court cases like the Bostock versus Clayton County case decided in June of 2020 this year. And that was the last case that Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg voted on and supported our community on. So we're still able to create new alliances. We have created an equality caucus at the state capitol, which was something that we did not have in 2016 simply because we didn't have the members. But now in Georgia, we have possibly 9 members. We just elected our first LGBTQ senator for the state of Georgia as well this cycle.
That's amazing. So what kind of changes do you anticipate this will bring forth? I mean, there's so many issues. A lot of people think when we look at LGBTQ community, it's about marriage and it kind of stops there. But there's so much more. I mean, what are some of the other concerns that you think will now be able to rise to the top?
To your point, the Bostock versus Clayton County case was about a transgender city employee within the county of Clayton, and how actually employment is implicated, in people's biases around transitioning. When what we know is it is incredibly laborious and invasive in the state to be able to change your gender marker on your identification. So there are issues that deal with Department of Motor Vehicles and county and city offices for us to determine. And luckily, we actually got the HIV decriminalization bill passed in the House last year. And now that we have an LGBTQ senator, I believe we can get that through the Senate as well.
Okay, tell me about this. It's a decriminalization bill. What does this do?
One of the most stigmatizing pieces around living with HIV is the conversation on what happens if you tell someone, what happens if you don't tell someone. Mm-hmm. What happens in those instances is the law in Georgia says that you would be guilty of a felony if you did not disclose that you were living with HIV. It is not savvy or modernized. Many of these laws are not enough to realize that if you're taking pre-exposure prophylaxis or post-exposure prophylaxis, PrEP or PEP, you are not able to transmit the virus. It is over 99% effective and has been one of the ways in which the pharmaceutical companies have shown support of HIV research based right here in Atlanta at Emory University is where it was patented. So what we try to do is to update language that says that would not be a felony if you did not disclose that to someone and you were on retroviral medication.
Got it. It's no longer a death sentence the way that it was when we didn't have these kinds of technologies and advancements in place. Well, thank you so much. And Dr. Mendoza-Denton, I am very fascinated with your work in looking at linguistics and politics, and particularly looking at the idea of, in a town hall meeting, the language that's being used there. Why is this significant? What is this power of language that seems to, be kind of the central focus of your work?
Okay, so I think that language is extremely powerful, and that one of the ways that, for instance, President Trump works with language is to actually change it from under our feet, right? So he has taken language and in some ways redefined a lot of things for us. So by, for instance, saying that the whitehouse.gov website can't have it used to have under President Obama, it used to have Spanish language portals. Yeah. And the minute that President Trump got in there, he took them out. So he took out the Spanish speaking information from all of whitehouse.gov, completely scrubbed, which is really a barrier. It's a barrier to access to information. Right. Wow. And so that's mostly what I've been working on. Lately, I looked again, and the only thing there is a link to the CDC, right? To the CDC Spanish information. But all of that Spanish information that used to be on there by, in terms of for people who are primarily maybe more fluent in Spanish or just want the Spanish information to transmit to other people, then it means that it's not there. Now, as far as the town hall meetings, what happens there is that, you've gotten from, I was working in Arizona on this project of town hall meetings right around the time that Congresswoman Giffords was shot.
Yeah.
Right? In one of her own town halls. I mean, it wasn't a town hall, it was like a meet and greet at a supermarket. But It was, I was living in Arizona at the time, and it was just down the street from me. And the trigger for this was really that Sarah Palin had gone up, right? And she was a candidate for she was a VP candidate at the time. She'd gone up and put what is that called? Target marks on the pictures of different states where they had some beef, right? So she had put up these target marks, and then all of a sudden, a person who was, a person who was motivated took a bunch of guns and shot.
Wow. So the trigger was language, even visual, as you mentioned, visual linguistics. Powerful. We're going to take a break, and we're going to come back. We're going to look at some trending topics and continue this conversation. So stay with us on the Live Exchange.
Primary election. Lack of diversity. Gas prices.
Michael Jackson. Trending topics.
Is the election. We have been waiting for that moment for a long time. We have been for a very long time. For some of us, probably more than others, because we have just been anticipating a change in leadership from the toppest, highest levels of this country, which is the White House. So we are still waiting. We are still, looking for results. And as you can see, we are pretty much sitting on, Biden being ahead with Donald Trump, trailing closely behind. And I say closely because it's really a matter of finding out, how these last few states end up. So yeah, and I know that some news networks have, called Arizona and others have not. So, we still are up in the air. No announcements have been made. We are waiting. And so in the meantime, we are, there have been a lot of different types of activity going on. There's been a lot of support for those who are still counting ballots in the states that we're waiting for. And by way of, a football team, and it just left me, I can't remember which one, sent dinner to those who are counting votes. And then at the same time, we have people who are protesting in both Michigan and Arizona and wanting to monitor the votes and wanting the votes to stop. Wanting the count to stop. And so really interesting dynamics that's happening here in this election. So ladies, I'd love to hear your perspective in terms of, what does this mean for us looking at the way this is going, challenging the counting, stop the counting. Are we on the verge of some kind of major change in the way that we constitutionally vote?
Well, I would, first just thank you for the work that you're doing around the linguistics. I actually did my college major in linguistics, as well as Hispanic linguistics at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. They're one of the only schools that really have a program that helps you understand what impact does dialect have in region and class and structure and verbiage. And so as a millennial elected official who started off in office when President Obama was, the leader of the free nation, I came through with the mentalities of yes, we can, and the hopefulness and the different Dream Act and all the things that really symbolize unity and the differences that are happening now. Absolutely, you are seeing that messaging happen today as Georgia is counting votes, which is why my shirt says count every vote. And we think it is really important that in every language, we have that messaging out. So our international affairs liaison within my office has started a campaign in Georgia just to make the Latino and Hispanic community know that we are still standing with them, counting every vote, because when we vote, we took our family with us, and this is a very important election for our communities.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that one of the things that happens is that President Trump is laying the groundwork for us not being able to challenge the legal actions that he's taken. So even before the election started properly, right, before any of the votes have been counted, he's already saying, I'm going to challenge, I'm not going to step down. And this is actually a kind of intimidation. If you think about it, people are being intimidated not to vote because they think, oh, he's got it in the bag already. He's going to fight it. I don't want to get into that. So it's really a deterrent to people's ability and right to vote and right to be counted, no matter what their language of origin, no matter what their country of origin. This is the very destructive kind of way that, as I said, reality is shifting out from under us.
It's almost a weird type of hypnotism. That's, it's like, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. And then when it happens, you're not going to be surprised because I already told you. And it's just a really interesting mind trick that so many people are on both sides are falling for, and it's, I don't know, it's a phenomenon. And I'm really glad that you're studying this. I'm curious to know more about the visual linguistics piece. You talked about the target. I'm curious to know what kinds of visual linguistics are we seeing now?
Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about gesture, right? And especially the gestures that President Trump has deployed in order to weaken his opponents, to mock his opponents, and to mock the public in general, right? Mm-hmm. It's no accident, really, that we have forced sterilizations of minority women, which has been going on in this country for years and years and years, both African-American women, Native American women, and Latinx women. Everybody is getting forced sterilizations because our bodies are not respected and our bodies are not counted. And one of the ways that you can see that bodies are not respected is by the way that they are voiced in the speech of another. So when President Trump gets up and mocks a disabled reporter, you can see that this is a body he does not respect. When he gets up and mocks Hillary Clinton for, a shuffle or any kind of, or when he says Sleepy Joe, all of these things, right, are things that, even with his own kin, he doesn't respect their bodies. And he talks about women's bodies in a way that's really degrading and demeaning and really shows us the kinds of regard that people have. So the visual linguistics, the gesture aspect is parallel to language. And sometimes somebody will make a gesture that betrays their feelings. And I think it's really important to talk about that. So in our book, we have a chapter by Hall, Ingram, and Goldstein that goes into that, into all of the visuality, and it's amazing to analyze it.
It sounds fascinating. And, just the way that you were talking about the disrespect of bodies. One of the ways that this played out was the ways in which he's continuously attacked the squad. And, we're familiar with the squad. This is composing of State House of Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar of Minnesota, Ayanna Pressley of Massachusetts, Rashida Tlaib of Michigan, and they have been attacked by him repeatedly in exactly the way that you describe, just complete disrespect for them and for their bodies. Representative Cannon, I'm curious to know that, yourself being a woman who is, representative for Georgia, have you experienced these kinds of attacks and how do you push forward? How do you handle that?
Luckily, I'm a girl raised in the South. I love my grits. I've lived around the world in, places like Ecuador and Portugal and Mexico and North Carolina, California, New York, Vermont, I've gotten the understanding that because Georgia is such a global state, internationally trading with our ports, the world's busiest airport in the city of Atlanta, the Center for Disease Control here, the historical civil rights features, all of that going on. It reminds me the fight that I'm up against when just last year, it was the 60th anniversary since Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s untimely assassination. I went around to every member of the House of Representatives and asked them, did they want to sign the resolution that just commended that day and just helped us as a state understand the impact that he had as a person who is buried in the district that I represent at his church? And there were so many members who told me no, they didn't want to. They didn't want to be a part of that. I should go on, girl, with that. Wow. And, understanding what girl means, understanding that that is a term that has been derogatory to Black women for years. The assault on our bodies continues with the desire to ban reproductive health procedures, which I took straight to the well and defended the right to choose. Also saying just because someone wants to make a decision with their doctor, it is not for lawmakers to decide. However, we're still in the courts. So it takes some strength and some perseverance, not only personally, but politically, to deal with these types of attacks.
Yeah, absolutely. And what is it that the rest of us can do to better support our women, our people of color, our underrepresented groups as they are trying to make change, doing the work?
We're blessed just to know that every single person has a story and every single person is a subject matter expert. Please share your facts, your data, your statistics with your legislators, as we are supposed to be following that and making law in accordance.
I love it. That's really encouraging because many of us get caught up in it's just me, it's just my little life. What difference does it make? And it does make a difference. It truly does. So when we come back, we're going to be looking at a little bit of research and continuing this conversation. So stay with us on the Live Exchange.
Science, 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 science.
All right. So if we are looking at just kind of what's going on, and we were just talking about the, just how Black women, how women of color, how Latina women are really marginalized in a lot of ways, particularly by the president. And one of the things that I wanted to put out there for those of us who might not, be familiar is Black feminist theory. And there's a lot of work right now on Black feminist theory, particularly Black feminist thought, and the champion for that particular idea of Black feminist thought is Patricia Hill Collins. So definitely check out her work. But looking at Black feminist theory, Black feminist consciousness arises from an understanding of intersecting patterns of discrimination. So it's not just I'm discriminated against because I'm a Black woman, but it's the intersection of the different ways in which, I am discriminated, so race and gender, for example, looking at the intersection of that, looking at how, it's not just because I'm Black, but it's also because I'm a Black woman. And so there's a different dynamic that one experiences when they are really being hit with discrimination in at both angles. If race and gender, this is according to Evelyn M. Simeon, if race and gender are studied as separate categories, one cannot explain how attitudes might change as a result of cross pressures to subordinate the interests of Black women so as to protect Black men. In this essay, Evelyn looks at Black feminist consciousness, provides an overview of its origins, and she talks about how looking at Black feminist voices in politics, and the ways in which there's limitations, and yet, Black women persist and they push and they push. But if we just observe and we just look at how Black women in politics are received, if we look at how Michelle Obama is received, if we look at how Maxine Waters has been received, there have been many attacks on not their policy necessarily, or not what they're saying, but on who they are, what they look like, their gender. So that's the research. I just wanted to put that out there. And Dr. Mendoza-Denton, this is talking about, it's specifically Black women and so forth, but I know that there are also parallels with Latina women. Can you speak to how this might parallel with the experiences of Latina women? Are there differences? Does it look very similar?
I think that it looks similar in some respects, and it looks different in other respects. I think that the experience of Black women in this country is so foundational to, everyone's experience, comes from a deep well of knowledge and of understanding. But at the same time, I think at this particular juncture and in this particular moment in history, it's so important to express the experience of Black women. And to stand in solidarity. And certainly in the work that I do, which is, I have no power except the power of the pen. And I use that. And in my work, I make it just an absolute must to cite Black women. Because I think that research is so important. And I think it's coming from a place of just such deep experience. So I think that so that's the one thing. And on the other hand, I'll tell you from my own personal experience that being a Latinx woman in academia is very fraught. There's a reason why I feel like I can't even wear the color red, because there's so many stereotypes associated with it, with like mamacita and so on. You wouldn't believe, even as a professor, even as a dean, in the graduate division, I was getting people writing to me saying, just harassment, actual harassment from people. And they're like, oh yeah, I'm flirting with the dean. And I'm just like, what are you doing? Right?
Wow.
Like, do you think that this is going to flatter me? Because it's not, absolutely not. And so you just the indignities, I think, of being a woman in power are intense. And then you see what the squad has been subjected to, right? That they finally found their catchy phrase, capture them all, AOC +3, right? That's just, and the abuse that AOC has been subjected to, that she even had to complain about it on the floor of Congress, right?
Right.
And that, more power to her for that, for actually calling it out.
Yes. And I have a question, even just about AOC. I've had conversations about this with some of my colleagues, is what are your thoughts, from a linguistic standpoint? And also Representative Candidate, if you have any thoughts on this as well. Reducing her name, is it reducing her name to AOC? And I know that she's okay with this. Do we require people to call us by our full names, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, because that name speaks to my culture and my background and who I am? I've struggled with that because I've used both, and she's used both. I'm curious to know, your thoughts on that, because a lot of us, even the mocking of Kamala's name, our names aren't even valued. I'm curious to know your thoughts on that.
In Georgia, we have only elected 2 Latinas to the state house in our history. We've only elected 1 Asian man. We've only elected 1 person from India who's an immigrant. Unfortunately, we have 1 only Jamaican descent person here in our house. The numbers go on, and we're proud to be able to say, no, we have elected the first German immigrant, and she's a woman. No, we are excited about celebrating Japanese heritage, Mexican heritage at the state capitol, and we're not afraid to create influential Muslims in Georgia Day. But there are so many others who, when they come to the state capitol, that's their time to shine and to, for some way, galvanize individuals around hate and divisiveness. Luckily, we were able to pass our hate crime bill this year, a bill that sat in the Senate for over 300 days until Ahmaud Arbery was killed in our state while we were debating the measure. And we finally got the Senate to take that bill off the table. Of course, they wrestled with it, messed with it, passed a police immunity bill before they would pass the hate crime bill. But we are certainly very cognizant that as we bring our culture to the Capitol, they put up fences, they put up walls, and we simply have to continue to be diverse because that's what Georgia really is.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah. So, go ahead. Go ahead.
I just want to know how is it that the country of Rwanda can have 68% female representation in their government, right? And we're just excited to get a handful reelected and a handful elected, right? The fact that Representative Cannon is such a rarity, right? It shouldn't be.
Well, and just to quickly give a couple of stats. Looking at right now, we are at about 38% of Congress being women of color, and if we look at right now, we have one Latina, or is it two? Either way, one or two, a Pacific Islander, two, one multiracial, and this is in the Senate. For the House, we have 22 Black women. And so there's 4 total in the Senate, which consist of a Latina, Asian Pacific Islander, 2 Asian Pacific Islanders, and 1 multiracial person. And then woman, which is Kamala Harris, by the way. And then we have in the House 22 Black women. So when you say, Dr. Mendoza-Denton, that we really need to pay attention to what's going on with Black women and that Black women's stories are really the foundation of what's happening in this country. We're blazing trails in terms of this fight for equality. And I agree from the standpoint that what we're doing is opening the doors for others who are being underrepresented in this country. And so we hear a lot, believe Black women, trust Black women, support Black women. And that doesn't mean that that's it. It means that we are opening doors for everyone else. And so we're going to go to a break. I know I got the signal. We're going to a break, and we'll be right back. Pamela, and we are at the tail end of this first hour with these two phenomenal guests, Dr. Norma Mendoza-Denton and Representative Park Cannon. So I just wanted to give you both an opportunity to impart some final words for us as we sit and wait, either on edge or in peace. I'm choosing peace as we wait. So I will allow the professor to go first.
Thank you so much. First of all, I want to thank you for having me on the show. And I'm so honored to be here with Representative Cannon. And I want to say that for each person out there, it's your duty to educate yourself about different viewpoints and to step outside of your bubble. All of us have been fed curated bubbles by our various social media platforms. It's your duty to figure out how somebody else feels. Yeah. And what is going on in their world that makes them, lean a certain direction, vote a certain direction. Why is it that Latinx people who are Cuban Americans are very sensitive to being told that there's communism or socialism coming down the line, right? How is that motivating somebody else? We have to understand each other in order to be able to reach out to change behavior. And also polls don't mean anything without people on the ground to understand how people feel. So that's what I would say.
Thank you for saying that, because we have been watching these polls and really the reality, it's the people, it's us, it's what we actually do to turn out. So thank you so much for your words and for joining us. All right. And so Representative Cannon, what words would you like to part with?
Well, the truth is, count every vote is what we need to be pushing forward right now. In Georgia, we actually have a number of counties that still need volunteers to come to the county polling places and help them to cure the ballots and count the votes. There are two different ways that this happens. One is that someone has already sent in a ballot and we have to trace it back to their home and talk to them to see what their vote is, or that actually the ballot is sitting in the office, but it just has not been counted. So if you want to be a part of either of those, please email South GeorgiaCure@gmail.com. Right now, we are actively looking for people to count the votes, as well as if you want to do it in the Metro Atlanta area, you can email Tiffany at bayandassociates.com. I am happy to be contacted in the direct message, as well as to share forward the fact that it actually takes a village to get votes counted in states like Georgia. So don't log off, don't tune out. Please, this is your time to shine, and we'll be right here with you until every vote is counted.
I love it. Thank you so much. It's so encouraging to know that we can all play a role in such a practical manner, in a literal manner, to make sure those votes get counted. And so I appreciate you putting that out there. I just wanted to put out this quote from Andre Imperi, and it's a book from his book, Know Your Price, Valuing Black Lives and Property in America's Black Cities. And it says there can be no real sustainable protection in a democracy without citizenship. Our quality of life and even our existence is tied to the assumptions of who is an official member of the country. Our lack of protection signals second-class status. Yet there's no more important power that can change that standing in life of a citizen than the right to vote. Ending racism may solve many Black people's problems, but electing a Black woman to the highest offices in the land may save America from itself. So let's just hope and pray that that a Black woman will be elected to one of the highest offices in the land, which will be that of the vice presidency. So with that said, I want to thank you so much, Representative Cannon, for joining us. I appreciate that we have elected you as one of the highest offices in the land here in Georgia. And I applaud your work and look forward to seeing what you will be doing through this term. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Take care. Goodbye, everyone.
All right. So thank you so much, everyone. We have a whole other hour coming up with some great conversation with two other guests who are activists and who are actively involved in getting us out to the vote, getting underrepresented people elected, and making a difference in the community. So I am really looking forward to this conversation. And as we are on the air, we're going to continue to watch what's happening with the election. So if there's any updates that we need to impart to you all, we are going to make sure that we do that. So stay with us and we'll be back. The second half of the live exchange, I am Dr. Pamela, and we are talking today about Black women in politics and what that means and the dynamic around it. During the first hour, we had two phenomenal guests, Dr. Norma Mendoza Denton and Representative Park Cannon, for representing here in the state of Georgia, and really important, compelling dialogue around the importance and the power of Black women in leadership and in politics. And so in this next half of the show, we'll be joined by two guests, Jasmine Sessom and Shar Bates. And we will further delve into our discussion on Black women in politics and some of the traits that we bring to impact the political landscape. I want to start with a quote from Shirley Chisholm. Of course, Shirley Chisholm is the first Black woman to run for office, and this was in the 70s. And really blazing the trail, opening the doors of possibility for women to come, like Kamala Harris. So here she says, you have to believe that something is possible that no one around you believes is possible. It requires us to deconstruct what it means to be a first, to make viable and appreciate the amount of work not only that individual has to do to see themselves as a whole and capable without historic precedent, but the absence of faith, the limits of support and confidence that may come from previous allies. That's the story of Shirley Chisholm, the story of Black women in politics, and really what it means to be Black in America. So important for us to be willing to do what no one else has done, to see what no one else has seen, and to break those barriers. And we're continuing to see that happen with the election of Representative Park Cannon and the squad, and so many other Black women who have been elected this year and reelected. So I am looking forward to this conversation, and I will, on the other side of this, look forward to introducing you to our guests. So stay with us, get involved in the conversation, and we'll be back. Welcome back to the Live Exchange. I'm Dr. Pamela, and today we are doing a post-election conversation about Black women in politics. And in the first hour of the show, we actually had a Black woman who is a politician, as well as a researcher, a woman who looks at linguistics and language and visual linguistics. Really interesting dialogue there. So for the second half, I would love to introduce our two guests. So we have Jasmine E. Sessoms. She is the founder and CEO of She Can Win. This is a movement that provides training and resources for women who are interested in running for political office. Since its inception, She Can Win has managed to get a plethora of women from all parties elected. Today, She Can Win brand, the She Can Win brand is expanding, providing a platform for women who are interested in both public affairs and government relations. An advocate for civic leadership, Jasmine has made it her mission to empower women. This includes taking the global press release distribution, Everyday Women, and strategizing ways to attain equal representation in office. Not to mention, she has created a platform that fosters a sisterhood for women who want to see change in the political arena. And so also we have Shar Bates. She is a broadcast graduate of television and radio broadcast production. In 2011, she founded the nonprofit Breaking the Chains, where she has launched several mentor programs that have raised school attendance by over 30% for middle school and high school students, all while simultaneously leading and hosting nationwide community relief events, local health and edutainment teen summits, and music events in Atlanta since 2008. Shar is also an indie radio pioneer who has interviewed multiple celebrities, dignitaries, artists, athletes, and moguls for the Shar Bates Show. Without further ado, I am going ahead and bring these two phenomenal women on. Welcome, Jasmine Sessoms and Shar Bates.
Hi.
Hello there. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for asking.
Great to have you on. And do we have
sorry about that. Just having a little bit of technical difficulties. How are y'all?
Yeah, great. I'm glad you made it. Technical difficulty is the name of the game these days with COVID and the adjustments. So we pivot, we bounce back. So checking in on you ladies, how are you doing in light of the wait?
Oof.
I'm hanging in there. I'm practicing self-care. I don't watch CNN all day. I don't really look at the updates. And I sit in Philadelphia. So Pennsylvania is kind of like that last state that everybody's side-eyeing and looking at and saying, did we do our part or did we not do our part? But overall, I'm fine. I am actually fine, because I will say, even though the presidential's a nail biter, if you look across the country, local elections have really trended in Black women's favor.
Yes. Absolutely. And that's something we have to remember, because we're seeing, and we're seeing some, flipping happening. And so be encouraged.
Honestly, for me, like, I've been telling people, like, we gonna listen, Black people, we were born in survival mode. We're gonna be the same, okay?
Yeah.
Regardless of who does what, we're gonna keep on doing what we do, because like we walk in our purpose all the time. Look at what we're doing. Look at us making the decision and having to save the day one way or another again. Like,
Yeah.
I think that out of everything, honestly, I love things like this. I'm proud of our people. I think that we have come together more than we ever have. It's a lot of turmoil and a lot of, bickering, because people have strong personalities and sometimes they allow emotions to get over facts. But for the most part, I think that everybody just needs to do more self-care and find their tribe right now and build.
Absolutely. I agree. I had a moment on Tuesday night. I was a little naive to think we were going to get results Tuesday night, right? And I had a moment on Tuesday night thinking, you know what? And because it looked like, and look, there's no secrets here. I don't want Trump to win. So I'm not going to act like, but there were moments where I thought, oh God, he might just get this. And I had to do some serious self-care mentally, like, okay, get your mind right, because if this does happen, it's a different set of work we're going to need to do in the next 4 years. It doesn't mean the world's over. It means we've got a different set of work to do than what we necessarily wanted to do. But that work is still going to be important regardless of who gets elected. We still have a system of racism in this country. We still have underrepresentation. So this is why I appreciate the work that both of you are doing. And I would love to know how each of you got into what you're doing. I'll start with Jasmine. How did you get into She Can Win? What made you care about politics?
That's a great question. I fell into it completely. One of my very close friends was running for office, and he was like, look, I just want people around me that I trust. This is over 10 years ago now. And I was kind of like, I don't know what I'm doing, what's going down. He was like, it doesn't matter. You're organized. You can come and work on the campaign. We win the campaign, and I kind of got like the bug, right, of working on campaigns. And I was a fundraiser by trade. And probably like my 15th race, I realized I wasn't working on a lot of women's races, and I started looking at our local government here in Pennsylvania, and there weren't a lot of women, let alone a lot of women of color, let alone a lot of Black women. And I just started asking questions like, why are there no women of color, Black women at this table when I see all of us working on these campaigns? And it's like, there are barriers. There are real barriers in raising money, getting access to high net worth donors, but also the key decision makers. It is an all-boys club. And knowing that Pennsylvania is 39th in the country when it comes to electing women, and even worse when it comes to electing women of color, I wanted to change it. So I asked a few questions, a few legislators, and I created a safe space for women to come and really learn about that political process. And that's really how it kicked off. It was very informal. A couple of women I knew wanted to run, and I brought them in my basement, and we just trained them. I got a whole bunch of options together, and we trained them. 600 plus women later.
Kind of stuff. This is modern day Harriet Tubman type. So right. I love it. We're going to go to a break, and when we come back, we're going to give Shar an opportunity to talk about how she got involved in the work that she's doing as well. So stay with us. We still have a lot to cover. So we'll be right back on the Live Exchange. All right, welcome back to the Live Exchange. I'm Dr. Pamela, and today we are having a conversation about Black women in politics, and what will hopefully be a post-election era. I would love to get some results today, but I guess we'll see. I'm joined by Jasmine Sessoms, the founder and CEO of She Can Win, as well as Shar Bates, and she is the host of the Shar Bates Show. Shar, can you tell us about how you got involved in politics and work that you're doing?
Well, honestly, I've always been in the community. I've been in the community with my nonprofit and schools and mentoring for about 10 years. And I actually started off on the media side, and I just didn't like how it was like a pushback about talking about different cases back in the day. And then when I more solely got involved in politics specifically was the whole Kemp situation back in 2018 when, it was the talk of the town amongst like the mid 40-year-olds to, and up. But none of the younger people and millennials was really talking about it. And Attorney Griggs came and he told me what was going on. And after I talked to him, like, man, like soon as I made a video and like he seen how many people would say, he was like, man, we need to get you out here to talk to people. I started hitting all these radio stations. I'm like, yo, I don't really know politics like that. I'm like, I do stuff in the community, but I'm kind of sophisticated ratchet. I don't know, my story is kind of similar to AOC, how like a lot of people was just like, yo, you need to be up on this. Like, and soon as I start talking about it, like I got like a lot of different big organizations like Coalition DJs and Bonfire ATL and different people involved in it. And because I had already been kind of merging hip hop and the community. So then that's when I went and I was like, you know what? Like, I don't even like politics. I'm like, F the Republicans, F the Democrats, my vote is hip hop. And, from a video, so many people was like, yo, I like that. I was like, you know what? Maybe I should. Maybe. And so here we are. And, we've been able to mobilize more millennial voters than, not just this state, but the Southeast and our followers have ever seen. Like, we really created a wave, in Atlanta and, kind of made it cool. More solely like, listen, here's the thing, I'm nonpartisan. Like, whatever you do, that's your business. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
My Vote is Hip Hop is here to make sure that nobody's taking away your right to vote, and make sure that we assist victims of incarceration, and you let the hip hop community know what's going on from a hip hop perspective, because it'd be a lot of big words and mumble jumble when they don't want you to know what's really going on.
Right.
And so, you got to break it down in layman terms sometimes, but it's like, and so it's like, it's so much. As soon as I got involved with it, literally within, a few weeks, BT hit me, then Cop Watch America happened. And, but really I'm doing the same thing that I've been doing, like we have been sending planes to Puerto Rico for supplies when hurricanes was happening, and semis to Flint, Michigan. I'm from Michigan. I'm from Flint. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we're not like, I was already involved in things in the community as far as relief, give back, and police brutality before politics got so crazy. Which is why I didn't really want to be involved in it. And really being involved in with police brutality let you learn politics, because if you make too much noise, and now you got people knocking on your door that you don't even know. Like, you don't even, you shouldn't even know me.
Well, and here's the thing. When you are dealing with any injustice that's happening in society, any kind of change that you want to see happen, you are in politics, and so many times we try to limit politics to elections, but it is everything that it's not just election day, it's the results of election day. But that police brutality stuff is just about as political as it gets.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I've noticed in media, and you both can chime in on this, is one of the things that you mentioned, Shar, was, when you say something, it's about police brutality or about any injustice, people start knocking on your door. You start hearing back. You start getting responses. One of the things I've noticed with social media is that, Facebook, Twitter, they are paying attention. And so there are, Black Lives Matter has been highly politicized to the point where if you post something that's Black Lives Matter, it might get flagged. If you post something about police brutality, it might get flagged. And so it makes me wonder, is social media helping or harming? And it's probably doing both. The work as we try to push forth with, fighting these injustices.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely both. Because in a way, now I'm able to let, you know, eat my page. So for instance, my page, I don't even have 30,000 followers. I'm at like 26 or something. 25. And so, but the fact that if my post goes viral, I could hit impressions with,
Right.
of over 1 million. Um, that says a lot. But at the same time, if I'm spreading disinformation or if I'm just spreading a rhetoric that's not, of the best interest of, our people, and not even just our people, but other groups as well, then
Right.
then it turns into a problem, in which we know people is doing that every single day.
Absolutely.
So it helps and hurts.
And so, Jasmine, how have you found social media to be either a form of support or hindrance to the work that you do?
For me, it's a little bit of both, right? It can definitely be a really good driver of the message. So, like yesterday, we created She Can Win posts for every Black woman that either won in a historical race like Cori Bush or Michelle Rayner, or just a Black woman that won on the federal level or a local level, and we're still creating them. And so many people. One young lady, she texted me and she was like, "Oh my gosh, I was on the She Can Win Instagram site," and she was like, "Somebody actually like donated to my, now." Campaign is over, but she was like, somebody asked me like, how can I get more involved, and that's my area. So it was all about shedding light on a school board race that probably most people didn't pay attention to, right? But it's a pretty historic win because she'll be the first woman of color on that school board. And so social media helped her get her message out by, utilizing our platform. But then, the false news is rough. It is really rough. And combating the false news, finding trusted sources for the information has always been rough. And how do you discern those things, right? But we look at social media as a plus. We want to spread the message and the work that we're doing, but more importantly, highlight local legislators that are doing really good work that you might not hear about on CNN or MSNBC.
Yeah. I mean, that's important. And the thing is, you have people who actually care about the false news, about, deciphering between the false and the facts. And then you have people who really just don't care. If it's a headline and it sounds good, there's got to be some truth to it somewhere, so I'm going to post it. So that's a huge problem. We have to go to a break. When we come back, there's some research that I'm definitely going to be wanting to get both of your viewpoints on as it pertains to voice and our voice as women. And we just have some statistics and other things that we want to cover. So stay with me, everyone. We'll be right back on the Live Exchange. All right. So as we look at the science, I want to talk to you all about one of my favorite theories as it pertains to voice and women's voice. But first, I want to just share about Barbara Jordan of Texas. She was the first Black woman elected to Congress by a former Confederate state. Professor Jordan was a woman in possession of a voice, an intellect, and a political strategy so resonant that nearly a decade before Geraldine Ferraro's historic vice president run, Jordan's name was floated as a potential running mate for President Jimmy Carter. Decades later, the Jordan way, which is outspoken, clear, and unapologetic Black women speaking their ideas, and how people respond to it is to become a major theme of this year's election. The ascent of Stacey Abrams, Senator Pamela Harris, and several other women who practice politics the Jordan way may now lead to the White House. So speaking of voice, this is a theory called Women's Ways of Knowing by Belenky, Clinchi, Goldberger, and Perul. And basically what it says is that we have different, we come into our own voice in different ways. And there's different ways that is represented. And so I'm going to show you the different stages here. First, we have silence, which is we don't have a voice. And we may choose silence or we may be compelled to silence. But we're not using our voice. Number two is received knowledge. This is where we are using the voices of others. So what somebody else told us is the truth as we see it. So we haven't developed our own voice. We are just expressing the voice of others. Number 3 is subjective knowledge. This is the inner voice. This is when we have discovered our voice, and this is when we have found it within us to express it. And sometimes it comes out quite emotionally. It can be anger. It can be an expression of excitement. It can be an expression of disgust, but we are willing to express it at this stage. Number 4 is procedural knowledge, and this is a voice of reason. This is where we become a little bit more strategic, and we put the emotion aside a bit to think about, how do I get what I want? How do I use my voice in a way that's going to appeal to the people? And then number 5 is constructed knowledge. And what's interesting about this, I think it's a nice little surprise, it's an integration of all the voices. So what it essentially says is that all of these voices are valuable, and all of these voices should be utilized from time to time, even silence. So there even is a time when silence is powerful. So that is women's ways of knowing. I'm curious to know, and I'll start with Jasmine. As you work with women in training them and developing them and getting ready for politics, how is voice important, and how do you prepare women to use their voice in position?
I think it takes a time for women to find their voice, especially when you are running for a public office. You have a very short window to come across inviting but stern, warm yet not a pushover. They're women walking in extreme tight line, business savvy but not a shark, and not unscrupulous. So it's finding your voice in a really short time. And I agree with this theory of sometimes silence, sometimes using others' voices to amplify your message or your first gut reaction. And I think looking at what Senator Harris has had to go through in the very long term but short term of being the VP pick, but then also running for president, is finding her voice and crafting her message very quickly so that people could identify. Because when she was running for president, the masses said she wasn't qualified. They obviously did not invest in that race because she dropped out due to fundraising restrictions. So it's finding a voice, and women do struggle and have a heavy burden of trying to find a balanced voice. That is difficult. It is not lost on me that today is the day that Shirley Chisholm won Congress in 1968. You know what I mean? And one thing that our good sis Shirley said was, you don't make progress by standing on the sidelines whimpering. You make progress by getting involved and using your voice and using your strength. And so I use that constantly when training women of, you might not have gotten it right. You might not have found your voice yet, but keep using it. Your voice is valued. Your voice is needed in conversations.
I love that. Thank you. And it reminds me of what you were saying, reminds me of Michelle Obama's journey in learning the hard way that, there's certain things you can say and not say, and faces you can make and not make. And it's a delicate process. I don't know that I would do it well, but, but it's a huge responsibility. Char, you use your voice in a very big way. How does this theory resonate with you? Are there moments where silence has worked for you, or do you gravitate to one type of voice more so than the other?
Oof. It's such a loaded question for me because, I don't follow the rules. I don't, the rules don't work for us.
Yeah.
They don't and it's not that I try to go against the rules, but honestly, I get so tired of pulling out the little box that we as Black women have to walk over to and get inside and close it until we shrink ourselves for people to feel like that's okay, that's enough. Now we can take you.
You're palatable now. Yeah.
I've been tired. I thank God. The more I get in tune spiritually, the more I'm like, I said what I said. It is what it is. It needed to be said. And this is what everybody is saying at the water cooler talk anyway, but it's just frowned upon to say it publicly. I think that, at this point, we don't do our ancestors any justice for us to be standing up with our heads down. I'm not doing it anymore. Because that's not, like, as she just said, that's not the attitude of Shirley Chisholm. That's not the attitude of Sojourner Truth. They were very bold in how they moved, because you have to, it's unfortunate that if you are not courageous with your plight, you get ignored. And and it's crazy, because I hate that some people will try to put a label on me because I will speak, because at the end of the day, because I will speak for the community, and because I will speak the things that people say, oh, don't say that out loud. But it's the things that conversations need to be had in front of others, because I feel like where we are right now, I pray about things, and I talk to God, and I make sure that, it's clear in my spirit before I speak on things, because I'm also very careful. And it is sad that, to a certain extent, even when you decide to make those bold statements, you still have somebody that you have to go and see about. So you have to make sure that you're able to stand in that 10 toes down, and you have to make sure that you're not standing in ego, and that you're standing in spirit and truth. Because sometimes it's a lot of people that's just talking real loud just to be able to make a mark, or just because they know that people are going to pay attention, and when it's not something that you're supposed to abuse. But I do feel like right now, I feel like we all can use our voices more, and we all need to be aware of the power that we have, and we don't have to just take anything. And everybody has a role, everybody is different, but in the walk that I'm in, I'm gonna speak what's been laid on my heart and spirit to say. And if I'm wrong, I don't mind being proven wrong with fact and theory. And not just theory. But yeah, I think that I just try to do my best to listen to people. I think that's the most important thing, and make sure you're speaking from the heart.
I agree. And, it's interesting, because when we use our voices, and both of you spoke to this, it's interesting, the scrutiny that we receive as Black women that others don't receive. So how often has Mitch McConnell been attacked based on his culture and his gender, because he's being obnoxious, or because he's speaking too much, or he's, the things that he says are ridiculous? How often has he been mocked for his name? I've have other politicians got on the mic and called him other names that are not his own name. And trust, there are some variations of Mitch that we can come up with. Yeah. I'm just saying. So, but nobody, this is not the strategy that he has to endure. But when Black women speak, we have to endure mocking that has nothing to do with the content of what we're saying, and everything to do with what we look like, and what our names are, and who we are. And it is a very different layer of battle that we have to fight when engaging in politics.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. There is a different set of rules when you are a woman of color or a Black woman running for office than our white counterparts. Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. So when we come back, we're going to take a break. When we come back, I would love for the two of you to speak on unique traits that Black women bring to politics. The gift, I will say, of what Black women bring to politics. So we're going to have that conversation when we come back. So everybody stay with us on the Exchange. Dr. Pamela and sharp. And as we talk about women in politics and what should be elected is, because a lot of the elections have happened, they're done, and we know the answer, and we are just waiting for that presidential election. So we'll see how that all turns out. Before the break, I mentioned that I want to get in a conversation about the unique traits that Black women bring to the table in politics. And Jasmine, I would love to hear what Black women come to you with and what you try to instill in them through, the work that you all do in preparing Black women for politics.
Well, I always like to say Black women are not a monolith, right? So there is no one answer to the traits question. But I do think that one thing that Black women do have in common is a sense of service and putting service before self. Normally, if you are willing to run for public office, that's something that that's a trait that you have already is you are willing to put service before self, and that you want to truly better your community and those that you're serving. Black women have a tendency to want to fix it all, right? They know that the government is a mess. They know that their city is a mess. They know their school district is a mess. So they jump right in, head in first and ready to go. So I think that's something that you'll find from one place to the next place.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you for that. And you're right. Yeah, absolutely. Black women are not a monolith. And what we bring to the table is a collective of what only Black women can bring. And I would say that just being the trailblazer, being the difference, being outside of the norm in terms of the white male dominant collective that we have, is it in of itself bringing in value to what to our being there. Any thoughts, Char, about what Black women bring to the table?
I mean, she said it best. I mean, honestly, we bring the table. Like we we do. Like we do so much. Like even back to Condoleezza Rice, like it's always a Black woman that is either a part of the spine or holding it up.
Yeah. Wow.
And I think that I'm just so proud of so many people like Jasmine and other people that are, bringing more Black women leaders to the forefront. Like that was just so needed. Like, bruh, like it's like hearing yourself on TV. Like, yes, thank you for saying that.
Yes, absolutely.
And so I think it's important for us to see ourselves in that strong light, for our little girls to see us in that strong light, for our boys and our men.
Mm-hmm.
To have those reminders, because I think that they have enough reminders of, the twerking and all the other stuff from us as women. And so I think it's really more of a matriarch. When you see like Black women in politics, like it's like you see matriarchs in the making and live on TV, and in your lives and in your communities. And I think it's important because that's a part of the village, and we need people to know that it's people that care regardless of, your color, your class, your, tax returns, they just care about you, That's important for people to see because, it's not enough love out here right now. And if we don't bring nothing else, sometimes people may feel like it come on a little strong, but Black women, we bring love.
Yeah, I love that.
In a lot of different ways. And if you can't tell that this is love out of politics, I don't know what to tell you, because I'm sure Jasmine and other people that she be recruiting can be doing other things,
right?
As well as myself, because most of us don't get paid for it, and even when we do, it ain't enough. It really is not enough.
Yeah.
You have to because you go through things that money can't solve. So you really have to love our people. You really have to love people, period, to get involved in this fight.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, the fight, just the thought of getting involved in the fight, especially from the standpoint of running for office it's a huge, scary thought, because there's a lot involved, and let alone the money that needs to be raised, but also the preparing for attacks, because that's the nature of politics in our society, is how do I prepare for that? So I would imagine it takes quite the thick skin to step into this realm. One other thing that I would add to this is resiliency. So when we look at resiliency theory, it's saying that it's not about dealing with adversity, or it's not about having adversity in our lives. It's how we deal with the adversity. And I would say that, and of course I can never say all, but I would say that probably most of the Black women who have made it to office, who have taken the leap to run for office, probably have a level of resiliency that other groups may not have to carry, because of some of the very challenges that I mentioned. Do you see any? And I guess I'm asking this of Jasmine more so. Do you see evidence of resiliency that the women are overcoming, not just in politics, but in their personal lives? Is that a theme at all? Or is it, I'm sure that there's probably variation.
Well, I mean, resiliency, you have to be resilient if you want to run for office. That's just first and foremost. But I think there is a renewed sense of, I don't want to say self-worth, but just a sense of belonging and wanting that seat at the table, and kind of like a confidence in knowing that you belong at that table. I think before we were pretty much relegated in either party to the back, and to kind of do the grunt work and to knock the doors and drop the lid and do kind of like a lot of field work and leg work. But now I think we most certainly handle that part, right? We're going to get the vote out. We are going to door knock. We're going to make sure that our candidates move to the forefront. But I also think that Black women are seeing themselves as the candidate of, like, you know what? I can help get mediocre white man elected. Why not? Why not me?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that is, it's telling when you even just term mediocre white man. A lot of people are in office not because they're the smartest or the sharpest or the, and this is obvious, but a lot of people are in office because of who they know, because of the money that they have. And I think that with the work that you're both doing in bringing awareness, but also bringing voters to the table, we can shift that. I think we need to demand as voters that our leaders are people who are competent, who care, who know what they're doing. Shar, as you do your work with the people who will be doing the voting, what kinds of expectations do they say they have of their leaders? What do they want?
I think the most important thing that everyone wants is follow up and follow through. More of an update, from time to time on what you've actually accomplished.
Yeah.
I think that we all, and I don't know who this is for, but just period, we need more of an accountability system. We need more of a, we need updates.
Right. And we're supposed to have checks and balances, but
yeah, it's not enough of that. But when you, but I think that all of us could be, and myself included, could be more involved throughout the year outside of just the election times.
Yeah.
I think that changing right there would change the temperature of a lot, because we wouldn't allow these people to get fully through a term with, getting away with not, doing their job.
Right,
not just doing what this person or that person want them to do, but you're not just not doing your job.
Yeah, and we see way too much of that happening. We're going to go to a break. When we come back, I would love for each of you to give us an overview of what you're doing and how everybody can get in touch with you on the other side of this break. So stay with us. Pamela, and today we are having a conversation about Black women in politics, and looking at what's next for us, and joined by Shar Bates and Jasmine Sessoms. And we're I really, before we end the show, wanted to hear what each of you are currently up to and how people can get involved. So we'll start with Shar.
My Vote is Hip Hop. Pretty much if you go to myvoteshiphop.com and you join our neighborhood coalition, we're going to the underserved areas in Atlanta, and that's where the work is, in our opinion. So whether you want to do beautification projects or whether you want to do canvassing door to door, even if it's just to let some of these people in their neighborhoods know what local programs is going on that can assist people. It's a lot of people that's losing their homes, and they don't even know that Arthur Blanks has a program where, he'll pay your the additional money in property taxes that you can't afford, different things like that. If you would like to give back, whether it's through mentoring or, helping people with rent reparations or victims of incarceration get back on their feet, join our neighborhood coalition. We'd love to have you. You can follow me. I'm Shar Bates on Instagram. Thank you so much for having me. You guys are amazing. I love what you're doing.
Thank you. And you said something that I would love if you can just summarize in 20 seconds. Rent reparations? I can't let that slide.
Pretty much, we helped quite a few people with. We started off helping them with financial money towards their rent, and then we helped a lot of people with the moratoriums. But we also have people, listen, after the end of December, that moratorium is going to expire. So if you would like to give back and help people, please contact us at info@myvoteshiphop.com. And if you need help with your rent for next year or transitioning, go to myvoteshiphop.com or info@myvoteshiphop.com.
All right. Thank you. And then as far as Jasmine, can you give us a quick overview of how people can reach you and get involved with what you're doing?
Yes, absolutely. You can visit our website, www.shecanwin.net, or just follow us on Instagram, Twitter, or on Facebook, She Can Win at She Can Win Now.
All right. Awesome. And just to remind everybody, the work that Jasmine is doing is really about helping and preparing women to get into politics, Black women, and it's important, powerful work. So if you're ever considering it, you might want to reach out and get involved with what they're doing. So I want to thank everybody
so much for having me.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, no, absolutely. I appreciate having you both on here. This is such important work that you're doing. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in today to the Live Exchange, where we exchange compelling dialogue around humanity, intellect, and change every Thursday from 11 to 1. Join me next week at 11 as we discuss women in leadership from a different standpoint. And if we come together we can right the wrong, we can speak the truth, we can rise above, and we can stand for change. Thank you all again for joining us. We'll continue this conversation and have an awesome week.